What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, my name's Uncle Reddit, and this is r/pro revenge. So this is past me speaking to future you. I did a video yesterday, which was, the hell day is it? Yesterday was Friday, and I did a video for Tales from Tech Support at the campground. Nice little wooded background. The breeze was blowing. The kids were playing off in the distance. You know, normal campground noises. It was really cool. Really great atmosphere. Today, we're sitting in the dungeon of my soap shop. That's what all this is behind me here. This is soap curing on this baker's rack here. And while we've got a lull in business, I did have to work today. We're camping semi-local, about an hour away. And I can't leave the shop closed forever. You know, I mean, I do have to work sometimes, my day job. So, yeah, I figured I'd take advantage of the high-speed internet here at the shop and get a pro revenge video done. Also, uploading last night was murder. That tech support video was right around 12 minutes even. And it took 2 hours with this laptop tethered to my cell phone to upload that video. It was brutal. I had better signal in Gettysburg when I uploaded from there. So I may record another episode from the campsite before we're done camping for this trip, but it won't get uploaded from there for sure. So sorry about the background here. I know you guys are here for the stories anyway, but whatever. All right, guys, let's get into it. And I forgot to set the hotkeys. Mock the disabled? Justice is served many years later. This is a story about a piece of crap receiving their deserved karma several years later. Many years ago, I worked in the lovely career of retail. It's sadly normal for there to be a constant flow of shop scum that make you despise their existence, and there are those that are so horrific that what they do is burned into your mind forever. Fortunately, one of these unforgettable moments allowed me to exact my revenge. I had only worked in retail for a year in this newly built store and was starting to settle in. Getting to know the great customers and understanding that some people shouldn't be allowed outside, which, being a shy person who hates conflict, wasn't the best, but at least one of my customers was an absolutely adorable elderly lady who always made time to talk and was an absolute joy to be with. It had been some weeks since I had last seen her, but one morning I see her car park into the disabled parking bay, as she already has a blue badge, only this time she hobbled out of the car on crutches with a pot on her leg. A pot? Would that be a cast or a pot? I didn't have a chance to talk to her yet when a work truck, which didn't have a blue disabled badge, pulled into the disabled space next to her, and out jumped an early 40s builder with their teenage kid. Well, this little old lady was having none of this and must have absolutely massive balls of steel, and stood up to this ignorant builder and politely informed them that they shouldn't be parking there, as it's for the disabled and he doesn't have a badge. What happened next, I can't forget. This builder decided the best course of action was to humiliate and insult this poor elderly lady on crutches, accuse her of faking her disability, and claim the cast on her leg was a fake, and that she probably milks the benefit system for as much money as possible. Then he walks off, putting on an overly dramatic, fake limp, laughing away with their teenage kid whilst the old lady stood there in shock. Sadly, being one who lacks courage, I did absolutely nothing about it, and that would stick with me forever. I tried feebly to ask a manager later to do something about it, but they didn't care or want to get involved. For years I worked in this store, always seeing this scum builder come in and out. Fortunately, I never interacted with this scum builder, but I saw them often, and every time I did, I would always remember what they had done vividly. I would still see them park in the disabled bays, and even got to the point where I would recognize them by the large blue Mercedes they drove. 7 years later, I was still working in this store, and this scum was still parking in disabled, and looking like an absolute C. Whoops, didn't delete that word. Yet this year I was blessed with good fortune, and our store was outfitted with some absolute joyful equipment. Due to the high number of complaints, our store had set up a company to deal with the parking violations, but instead of having external parties coming in and ticketing cars, the staff of the store were given the ticketing machine, and it was our duty to go to the car park and record any cars that violated the parking rules. This was all done digitally, and there would be no paper tickets upon the cars. This was brilliant. As soon as I found out, I knew what I was going to do. It didn't take long for me to learn how to use the machine, and it certainly didn't take long for the opportunity to get revenge. And so it began. There were 3 rules for parking, and if you break these rules, there is a lovely £80 fine in return each time it happened. The first rule: No parking in disabled without a badge. And I know well that Scum Builder is certainly violating this rule, and it wasn't long until I saw him next, and as soon as he entered the store, I quickly scurried out with the ticketing machine, and lo and behold, there was the oversized blue Mercedes in the closest disabled bay, with no badge. I smashed them car details in with some well-shot photos and sent the report off so they would receive a lovely letter of their fine they would ask to pay. That's not enough though. But fortunately, it takes weeks for them to finally receive the ticket, which grants me the opportunity to constantly ticket their parking violations. Because as you would expect, the scum would always park in disabled. And as I worked at the front of the store, I would always know when they had parked. After ticketing their car dozens of times, the scum unfortunately learned their lesson, as their oversized blue Mercedes no longer appeared in disabled parking bays. But as you expect, the scum would still be scum, and they would find their new parking space inside child parking. Rule 2. Don't park inside child parking without a child. Had this scum gotten enough, I thought? Of course not. They haven't learned their lesson and continue to be a complete wanker and park in the child parking, which we didn't have many spaces for. At this point, I knew all their car details by heart and would gleefully fill out the ticket machine as I skipped over to their car, violating the child parking, and take photos needed for them, including shots of their car seats that bear no child seats in them. And as it became routine, this once again carried on a few weeks more of ticket being created, and eventually they start receiving the fines. Fortunately, me being me, I'm completely invisible to others and often overlooked, and I have yet to be seen or caught. But as all good things must eventually come to an end, when the scum came into the shop, their blue turd automobile was no longer there in the child parking or disabled. Has the scum finally learnt their lesson? Would you be surprised if they had not? As it didn't take me long to find them. Rule 3. You must park inside a marked bay. And what a surprise, the scum still manages to F this up. They would park over the line, taking 2 spaces up. Well, guess what? That's a job for me and my ticket machine. Trying to park inside taxi parking but can't fit the big-ass car in it? Boom, that ain't inside a marked bay, and ka-ching, another ticket and fine for the scum. Have one single wheel slightly over the white line of a bay? Well, guess who technically broke the rule? That's right, Scumbag did. And there goes a few more weeks of fun, until eventually Scumbag runs out of ways they can possibly break the rules, and our company hires externally to start ticketing cars, so my beloved weapon of justice goes to rest. Now I know what people are probably going to say, that all these fines are not enforceable because of blah blah blah, but I honestly don't care for a few reasons. Firstly, I'm being paid to do this, so either way my time or money isn't wasted. Secondly, it did have an effect as they repeatedly changed their parking habits. And thirdly, even if they don't end up paying, they're still going to spend a F-ton of time and effort trying to overturn them over and over again, having to constantly be harassed by mail. Overall, if the fines are counted separate and added up, they would have received thousands of pounds worth of fines, building up over time for being scum. Cherry on top, about 3 years later I walked by this piece of scum on the car park and watched as they scream at some innocent dude in a high-vis jacket, accusing them for being the one giving them all the parking fines, which put me at peace knowing this must have seriously got to them and cost them still to be raving mad after 3 years. Short version, I give someone many small parking fines adding up to the thousands of pounds for insulting a disabled lady several years earlier. Yeah, I honestly wouldn't care if they were enforceable either. If I'm getting paid to do it, and that's part of my job to ticket cars that are breaking the rules, you got it. I'm going to do it. I don't see anything wrong with what OP did. Was it petty? Sure. Was it some pro? Sure. You know, if you're going to be a D-bag, not only for the disabled thing, I mean, that was horrible. I mean, belittling somebody for having a cast on their leg or being disabled or just belittling anybody for any reason. It's just a D thing to do. But then the other D thing is there's a group on Facebook called Parked Like a Douche. If you get a chance, check out that group. There's some doozies in there, man. People parking, at an angle, taking up 2 spots. People parked up on curbs and sidewalks, and it's just fire lanes. Now, I will stop in front of a store in a fire lane, let my wife go in the store. Now, I'm sitting in the vehicle running. In fact, most of the time it's not even in park. My foot's on the brake and it's in drive. So if there's an emergency of some sort, I can clear out of the way. I'm not blocking any crosswalks. I'm not stopping any, hindering people from going in and out. I'm just close to the store. If an emergency happens, I pull away. This guy, he just does whatever he feels like. There's a lot of entitled people like that out there. So, they get what they get. No drinks, no tip. So I'm working at a huge party/concert/miscellaneous event location, and I'm the guy responsible for refilling the bars with drinks every time the bartender makes an order, and also picking up the used glasses and pints to bring them to the washing station we have. In general, I'm the guy that helps the bars running there. Sometimes there are 2 or 3 of us in a shift, but other times not. There can be nights that there are 5 bars open and the place is full with around 3,000 people. Just to give you a taste of what the job looks like when the place is packed on a typical Friday or Saturday night, imagine that you have to carry and deliver around 20 beer kegs, each with a weight of 65 kilograms, roughly 130 pounds, and around 60 cases of beer and soft drinks just when you start your shift. When something goes out at the bar, the bartender makes a new order that I have to deliver, and this goes on all night long from 1700 until 6, and sometimes, if there are any Goa parties, until 11. Also, just to give another taste of how big this place is, during a normal shift, according to my phone, I'm walking 28 kilometers, roughly 17 miles. Where I come from, we call this job runner. The unwritten law there is like this, that each bartender has to give 20% of the tip they make each night to the runner, because without a runner, he wouldn't have drinks to serve. Nobody can really know who is really giving the 20% of their tip, but that's another story. But every bartender is giving something, and usually it's a lot, and all sides are happy. There comes a new guy, and staff manager explains to him the unwritten rule, saying exactly these words: you don't want to have problems with any of the runners, so be fair. When you're doing this job for a while, you know approximately if the tip you will get is going to be good or not. Fast forward, huge metal fest with all bars open, 3 different stages plus outdoor bars, etc. Plus after-show parties. The place is packed like there's no tomorrow. This festival is happening every year and it's one of the best shifts, even though it's a lot of work and around 17 hours of work. Yes, that's a lot, but walking home with a $1,000 tip is worth it. So the new guy has a spot at a very good selling bar, was providing and delivering drinks there like crazy. After a long shift, when everything was done, and they do their calculations, he brings the money to the treasury, looks at me, says cold-blooded, "Thanks, have a good night, tonight was a good night to work," and walks away without giving me my tip. That was it, folks. I kept doing my job every time he had a shift at one of the bars like nothing happened, and I was just waiting for the full packed night to come. And finally, after a week, it was that time. Again, the place is fully packed. His first order arrives on my tablet. Sadly, I was too busy to deliver. 1 hour passes. He tries to call me on my phone. I pick it up standing next to a subwoofer. 1.5 hours go by. A second order arrives from him. I didn't even deliver the first one. Sadly, I was again too busy. Then after a half hour, the shift manager calls me on the radio. The shift manager was also doing this job before getting a better position here. "Hey, what the F is going on? Why doesn't he have drinks to sell?" I'm busy with the rest of the bars. The guests can go to the other bars." "Are you serious? That guy can only sell water and everything else is empty." And then I reply, "He can sell water, but no one tips a bartender for water, right?" Small pause on the radio. "You can't be serious. He's leaving no tip for you guys?" "Yep, you guessed right." "Well, I'm sending this idiot home." Positive. Yeah, whether you're tending bar, it doesn't matter what job you have, don't piss off the support people. You know, you may be good at your job, you may be the frontline person, the face of that job, but there's always somebody behind you or beneath you that's supporting you to be able to do your job. And if it wasn't for them, you'd look like a total moron. There's always somebody that's setting you up for your job. There's always laborers and things like that. The runners, here, at least on the East Coast in the U.S., we call them barbacks. Keeping the ice bins filled, keeping the beer stocked, keeping the kegs full and hooked up, cutting lemons and limes and things like that, or at least getting them from the kitchen and stocking the bins that hold the fancy fruits for your frou-frou umbrella drinks and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's a bad move, man. Don't screw people over. It'll come back around to you. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed these stories. And if you did, would you do me a favor? Would you consider giving this video a like? Maybe subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to click that little bell icon so you don't miss the fat guy with the beard telling you stories. See ya.